Yeah.
Like, how did they get to where they were, to where they are? The steps that they had to take, maybe some struggles that they had to go through,
Mm-hmm.
the growing pains that they might have experienced.
Yeah.
I think that's the beauty of the journey. Like really finding that beauty. Like my guy J. Cole said, the beauty in the struggle, even.
We're growing constantly. Like who you were now is probably not who you were 6 months ago. It's probably not who you were a year ago or 2 years ago. So we got to recognize those changes, also part of the process. But it doesn't happen overnight.
I agree. I agree. I think that's a beautiful thing. Something that I like to think about a lot, when it comes to that, what you're describing. It's like, think of any book from a successful person. Like if there wasn't a process, if the book was like, so I saw that I wanted to do this, I did it, and I won. That's it. That's the book. Like, who's reading that? Who's reading that? We really care more about the process. Like, like what? Like Benjamin Franklin or Bob Proctor, whoever it might be, someone that you look up to, and like,
Yeah.
like what? How did they get to where they were, to where they are? The steps that they had to take, maybe some struggles that they had to go through,
Mm-hmm.
the growing pains that they might have experienced.
Yeah.
I think that's the beauty of the journey. Like really finding that beauty. Like my guy J. Cole said, the beauty in the struggle, even.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's really important. And like you said, like I'm glad that you brought the college experience as well. I have two diplomas. I have a bachelor's and a master's and all that stuff. And when I look at those things, it's not like, oh, I had a graduation with 20,000 people and all that stuff, and like, oh, no, I was like, that was cool. It was a cool experience to have. But overall, what I think of is like that those 4 years, where I met so many cool people. The
Mm-hmm.
times where I had my my staying up all night studying at the library, like literally with some friends, and like really diving into specific conversations, and then going to work the next day, still doing like really just all that whole process. That's
Yeah.
where when you get to know yourself a lot more. That's where you get to experience life in ways that you didn't even think you could.
Right.
So like it's so important to realize that when you do hold on, like honestly, I've had situations where I've had a goal, and I reach it, and I don't even realize I reached it, and I was like, oh, actually, I remember I was like, I wanted to do that for like 2 years ago, and like I did it last week. I didn't even realize. Like,
Yeah.
because it really is just a moment in your life. It's just so
Mm-hmm.
much smaller than the actual process, like the
Mm-hmm.
actual like full like work or experience to get to where you are. And a lot of the time, there's
Yeah.
other moments throughout the process that are a lot bigger and more influential in your life than the actual result, that create more
Absolutely.
change, joy, expansion in your life than the actual result. Because when I look at my diploma, I'm like, yeah, all right, I'm like, all right, cool. But the process of
It's
even
it
getting my master's,
it it's that snapshot.
right?
That's
It's a
that's that
snapshot.
snapshot moment, right? But then
Exactly.
you see there's more opportunities, like even what you were just describing. You hit a goal, and if you're appreciating the process, then you're going to end up developing another goal. Like
Mm-hmm.
right after, if you listen to any of those successful people in their respective fields, that's what they'll tell you.
Yep.
It's like, I didn't say this was the goal and, oh, that's my ceiling, I'm done, I don't want to work anymore.
Yep.
No, now I'm evolving. Again, going back to Carlos's example, maybe it was I need to do a back handspring, and then I can do a backflip, and then I want to do an aerial, and then I want to do whatever other things that you want to do. Right? It slowly evolves because you start hitting this thing, now you go up some more. But I gotta respect and appreciate the process. And I think for a lot of young folks right now, and a lot of young men in particular, I think it's very difficult because I think there's a lot of lack of appreciation for that
Mm-hmm.
journey. But that's really what's going to shape you into who you are and who you're going to be. Is how
Mm-hmm.
you learn how to ride the waves of life. Right? That is going to happen. So back to, what we're talking about, if you're talking about opening up, why is that going to benefit me? Because, hey, I can maybe connect with people who can help me get to where I want to be. I can also have support as I'm going through some of my difficult moments in time, and I maybe need some additional support and resources to help through that. And also it helps me to feel less lonely and isolated, which a lot of us have been going through for the last almost 3 years, dealing with not only the pandemic, but just maybe also having difficulty with truly being willing to allow other people in and allowing people to support us as we're going through these different stages of change also in our life. That's another big thing that we don't always talk about. We're growing constantly. Like who you were now is probably not who you were 6 months ago. It's probably not who you were a year ago or 2 years ago. So we got to recognize those changes, also part of the process, right? We're constantly evolving in those ways. So we have to be willing to allow other people in to give us perspective, to give us insight, perhaps guidance if you want a mentor or somebody to give you some game for whatever it is that you're trying to work towards. But it starts with us really allowing others to be able to do that with us and us sharing with them. And I'm hoping that when people listen to things like this or us telling our own stories and bits and pieces about what we've gone through, they may resonate, they may understand, they may say that sounds similar to what I'm going through, and maybe are willing to add in some of those things that we're saying that we do or have done and get better outcomes. So again, they don't have to be going through so much difficulty or end up giving up on their hopes or their dreams because they think it's impossible to achieve. But we got to be willing to let people in to help us, though.
Definitely. And I think also like really that the importance of us really doing that work allows us to value more the outcome as well. Right? By you opening up more, it really and doing that work, because I know a lot of the time when it comes to opening up, we might have some feelings of fear for suffering that you might have to experience. Because if you're doing the inner work, you might have to feel some tough feelings again, especially when you're sharing with someone else. Like you're probably going to feel that again as you're sharing, and that fear can stop you from sharing altogether. And my point here is, don't let that fear stop you from getting that outcome, because a lot of the time we tend to wanna avoid it, trying to find a hack or a way to not literally go through those feelings. But those are necessary because it really allows us to value those outcomes a lot more. That diploma, for example, to go back to that, college, I value it a lot more because I know what I did to get to get that result. If I went to a college website and I'm like, yo, I want a master's degree, they're like, oh, we just mailed it to you. It's coming in, it's coming today. And then you just got a diploma. I'm like, okay. I don't value it. And so I most likely won't be concerned about maintaining or continuing to improve. I think a great example is lottery winners. Because they don't go through the process of becoming wealthy. They don't go through the process of gaining that, those millions or whatever it might be. Most of them end up losing it because they don't value it and they don't understand what it takes to create that much wealth. So when they do have it, they splurge it and they use it unwisely. So it's important for us to go through our process. If being a millionaire is a goal for you, if you don't know what it takes to generate that amount of income, and how many people you need to serve to actually generate that, then when you do get it, you're not going to appreciate it, and you're most likely going to lose it all, and you're not going to be able to sustain that. So that process is really important. It really is so important, and it allows us to value more the result.
Absolutely. That's a bit. I think that's a very big point, and I would even almost draw a direct connection why it's beneficial to what we're describing here. Why it's beneficial, especially for the men, to open up, and then how we even determine what we value, and how we maybe value even ourselves.
Right.
I think that's important because if I'm going through my life and I'm going through my journey, and I'm sort of just waiting until I hit this magical moment that I think, that's what's in my mind, right? I think when I hit this moment, I hit this amount of income, or I can buy this car, I can buy this house, and I feel fulfilled. My life has had purpose, right? I think you'll find that your life is quite empty. you know, because it's tied to something that's, you know, that doesn't really describe and express who you are as a person. I would make the case actually that the more that we open up, the more likely you're going to be able to figure out who you actually are and what you value and what you think your purpose in life is going to be. For example, I didn't come here. I'm not here doing this work by accident in terms of doing this stuff online, right? I've said this before. I will say it again for those who have never heard me before. So I'm a therapist. But I didn't go into the field with any assumption that I was going to be trying to talk to people online, hoping to inspire them to do their own work, to work on themselves, to hopefully lead better lives. That was not my intention. I didn't go into this 10 years ago, 15 years ago, thinking that was the game plan. I had great foresight. Absolutely not. But I learned through the process of opening up to colleagues, peers, former teachers, family. Things started making sense slowly, and you try little things here and there slowly. And eventually, I met Carlos. And eventually, we filmed a show for my podcast, which is out now. And eventually, you hear some of the things that we discussed, and I'm like, you know what? Other people need to hear this. And then I had to learn within myself, perhaps I need to get on here and talk about some of these things and be a part of some of these discussions. Because that, I feel, is my purpose.
Love it.
But that took time. I didn't know that right off the bat. It took me continuous time trying to learn more about how this thing works and what value I think I can even offer to people who are watching or listening. Because I don't think I have all the answers. I just want to be able to do whatever I can do to contribute, hopefully, to people making positive impacts in their lives in whatever way possible.
I love it. I love it. I think you're making an amazing point. I think you're making an amazing point. It really, that process teaches you about you. It really does, and it's crucial. Like so many times we get so attached to this outcome. Like if you would have said, "Oh, I want to be this," there's a massive chance that you might not even be on this call right now, because he was so attached. And if he was so attached to that outcome, like he might get there and start feeling like, oh, like this is not even what I wanted. Like, like we live in this society of I'll be happy when, that it's unhealthy. It's unhelpful. It can be really damaging for mental health to live like that. To start to think that as an outcome or a consequence is going to bring you that joy or that fulfillment that you're looking for. That can be really damaging. One of the best things we can do is really find the joy, the happiness, and fulfillment in the now. That's the only thing that we truly have some kind of grasp on. No one in this planet knows what's going to happen an hour from now. Like, you can ask billionaires, you can ask the top scientists in the world. They might assume, they might have an idea, but no one knows what's going to happen an hour, a day, 5 years from now. So many of us are so caught up on like, okay, well, this, and this to happen in the next 10 years. We don't know. So the best thing that we can do is really focus on the now. What can I do right now to, appreciate this moment, to gain this, to find the beauty in this moment right now? Because we're so caught up in time traveling, worrying so much about the future, or caught up in the past, like we're literally just ruminating and dwelling on stuff that happened to us in the past. When in reality, the only thing that is real, like, is the now. So it's so important for us to move away from this societal ideal that I'll be happy when I make $1 million. I'll be happy when I get my dream car. I'll be joyful when I meet this person. That can be really damaging, and I've seen it myself around people who have had that thought and that idea, and then when they get there, they feel so empty, like RJ said. They're like, oh, wow, and they are completely distraught. They're completely and this they go really low. They really go like deeply into negative thoughts and emotions, and that makes sense. Honestly, it just makes sense, because we saw so much more attached to the result that we don't even know if what we want, because we have to experience it truly to know if it's something that we want.
Absolutely. There's no way to know that, I think, ahead of time. I would even take it a step further.
I love it.
For anybody who is listening or who watches this and is thinking that their life is going to have more value once they attain or acquire enough stuff. Exactly what Carlos was just saying. This car, this house, this community that I live in. I would make the point to you, because I'm a people person, right? I would make the point to you that the thing that matters the most is the relationships with the people that we have. That matters more than any amount of wealth you can acquire, unless you use that wealth to be a force for good,
right? To
do something to positively impact the lives of those around you, not just simply acquire wealth simply just to have it. Because then your legacy is not one of service, of truly uplifting and empowering other people to live more quality types of lives. So I would make the point, if you're living for stuff, you probably feel pretty empty already. And if you don't, when you achieve those things, you probably will at that time realize it doesn't hold the same weight as you thought it would. People do. Relationships do. We're humans, right? We value, whether you would admit it or not, we value human connection. I'm not saying you have to be the most connected with every single person. What I'm saying is you value connection to some degree. You would much rather have somebody there genuinely be there for you when you need help, or when you want to spend time with somebody and share in building beautiful moments with them. That holds more weight than any amount of things that you can purchase. All that stuff doesn't really do anything for you at the end of the day. You can't cuddle that at night and let it hold you back. They're not going to be there for you in your last days on this planet. You don't get to watch them grow like you do for those that maybe want children one day. It's not the same. So I think if we're operating from this idea or this framework that if I just amass a lot of stuff, I'm going to feel valued, I'm going to feel appreciated, I know that I made it. Maybe in some respects, to somebody's idea, I would say you're probably going to end up very lonely. Because to acquire a lot of those things means you're going to have to work a lot. So you might not be prioritizing yourself. You might not be prioritizing your relationships with others. And I, as a therapist, I'm not going to encourage that type of thinking, because I think that it doesn't give us truly the value in return that we really want. So I just wanted to put that idea out there for those that may have never thought about that before, to consider maybe what you might be searching for, or maybe something that you should consider, is to allow for putting more effort into valuing those around you that you truly appreciate or you want to appreciate more. Because one thing I generally took away from this time being in the pandemic and trying to learn to navigate it like everybody else did was it was extremely lonely. It's very isolating. And a lot of us were missing somebody that we really maybe wanted to spend time with. Maybe they're no longer with us. So let's not wait, to Carlos's point. Let's not wait and keep pushing all these things off. If you want to do these things, then start doing them now.